Peace, family. It's high noon. You're tuned to the State of the City. Here live on Soul Classics 1590 WFBR. I'm your host, Brother Muhammad. Let me thank all of you that the sound of my voice is coming to at the top of the hour, the top of the show, and the top of the float for having us locked in and clocked in on those raggedy radios. Please do yourselves a favor. Turn them up nice and loud to get you a big fat Saturday, late morning, early afternoon crowd on this Saturday, February the 8th, 2014. And then go one step further. Call your family, call your friends, call your kit and kin. Call those that have your complexion, those that have your divine connection, and those that want to work to bring about some universal corrections. And go one step further. Call those co-workers, the slow workers, and even more, those that are guaranteed to be no workers right about now. Let them know that the State of the City is on the air. Got a lot that we're going to share with you, and a special guest, one or two, that's going to be joining me in just a few. So let me start the show off, as I always do, by first and foremost reminding you that we're now streaming live on the World Wide Web, so you can join us at www.1590wfbr.com. And for those of you that would like to join us on our social network media page, you can do so by going to our Twitter page, which is the #1 State of the City, or you can send me the Facebook request to be my Facebook guest for the next hour or two until we're through at Darren, D-A-R-E-N, State of the City. Last name is Muhammad, M-U-H-A-M-M-A-D, and you can see me. And for those of you that would like to join us on TuneIn Radio, you can go to TuneIn, zoom in to WFBR 1590, and you'll be soon in listening to the show in the flow this afternoon. And last but surely not least, those that would like to cut right through the gap and join us on our app, you can go to Spreaker at www.Spreaker, Spreaker.com. Get in on the Spreaker app, and you can have it locked in on them raggedy speakers on Spreaker and listen to the show wherever you are, near, far, uptown, downtown. If you're in your home or you're just out there chilling on the roam, you can get in on this conversation this afternoon. And speaking of the conversation, let me start the show off as I always do by dedicating this show to my brother and friend, Brother Eric Easton, and to the daughter of Mama B. Gaddy, the eldest daughter, Sister Sandra Briggs Gaddy, who is being funeralized or having her homegoing services as we speak, taking place in East Baltimore at the Amazing Grace Lutheran Church. We stop, as many have done in the city and around the state and around the country, to express their condolences to the family of Mama B. Gaddy and to the continuing children and offspring of Mama B. Gaddy in terms of, again, the work and the legacy that she's left here for her daughters and the rest of her family and those who are part of the extended family of Mama B. Gaddy to continue to do her work, which was service to not just the homeless, but to all in the city of Baltimore. Black majority, but brown, red, yellow, white, made no difference in terms of race, class, creed, color, or any other, again, denomination regarding the work that she was about. And so, again, we lift up the name of Sister Sandra Briggs, the daughter of Mama B. Gaddy, the eldest daughter, firstborn of Mama B. Gaddy. Let me also take this opportunity to dedicate the show to the family of Brother Johnny McFadden, who was murdered 2 years ago tomorrow in the city of Baltimore, in Northwest Baltimore. And his case, his death, his murder, his homicide still remains unsolved, as if there's no resolve from the Baltimore City Police Department to resolve these countless cases of homicides in the city of Baltimore based on some of the complexions and the connections in the city. But all life has value. And so we'll be talking about that, I promise you, on the show and the flow this afternoon, because this is not a show, but this is a flow. And this is not a call line, but a lifeline to our people regarding wanting to get the proper information with implementation and, of course, having some inspiration. So I dedicate the show to some of you, unfortunately, who've had to endure listening to some of these shows, as I've had an opportunity to be off now during the week and listen to some of these shows. Is enough to make you want to throw up and never, ever want to show up, because clearly many of them have no clue in terms of what to do, no clue of what's going on in this city, this state, this country, and clearly are dumbing our people down and others down. And some of the shows sound outright like a bunch of buffoons and cocoons that maybe need to be, let me stop right there. But let me continue in the show and the flow this afternoon before we go a little deeper into the conversation. Let me also take this opportunity to dedicate the show to the countless brothers and sisters that made it through the week and in last week and the week in the city of Baltimore. Another very violent week in the city. Had a 35-year-old woman that was killed in the West Arlington neighborhood and did not see the police commissioner show up there and have a press conference. But yet when it was a 51-year-old white woman killed in Canton last week, then they worked and made that case what's called a red ball case to move quickly to resolve that case. Well, we expect to see the same when it happens uptown, around town, and in other, maybe perhaps not affluent zip codes and affluent communities, because all life has value as well. And so again, you tune to the State of the City. Let me last but not least dedicate this show to the countless boys that were killed at the Dozier School for Boys in Florida, as that case, of course, has come up as new bodies are being unearthed. 55 bodies this week were unearthed in Florida, and I believe it's Mariner, Florida. And we dedicate the show to those who did not have a chance to tell their story, but those who are stepping out and stepping up and speaking out and telling their story as well. And to those who, during this month, are continuing to celebrate, elevate, educate, and commemorate Black history or our rich Black legacy, we lift you up as well on the State of the City this afternoon. So we got much that we're going to get into. Phone number to get in on the conversation if we open up the lines. And when we open up the lines, it's 410-761-1592, 410-761-1592. We're going to hopefully be joined by Sister Lita Alston Torre to give us an update on the case and the trial of Michael Dunn, who is the accused shooter of young brother Jordan Davis. If you do not know, that trial has begun. They have now seated a jury, and many on Black radio, particularly the Black Six, were not even talking about this case. And when I say the Big Six, I'm talking about Al Sharpton. I'm talking clearly about, again, Riggy Smiley, Tom Joyner, what's the other one? Steve Harvey, Roland Martin, and a few more that will not touch this story regarding, again, Jordan Davis. Have not called you out for a million hoodie march for Jordan Davis or Renisha McBride, the young sister that was killed in the suburbs outside of Detroit, Michigan. And so we'll talk about a little of that this afternoon with my guest that's going to be joining me, as she will be joining me, I believe, in the second hour. And we're going to go this quick break as I will work to get my first guest up. He is, of course, the son of the revolutionary and evolutionary chairman of the Black Panther Party in Chicago, Illinois. And so we're going to be joined in the first hour of the show, or the first segment of the show, by my brother and friend, my revolutionary comrade there in Chicago, who is currently in Detroit. I speak now of the Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., the Panther Cub, the founding member of the POCC, and a revolutionary warrior and soldier that is doing the work for our people. So listen to this quick musical break, and we'll be back with more of the State of the City. So in the meantime, in between time, let me remind you, if you want to support one of our young little Watotos, my daughter, Amina, who is working on, of course, her red, black, and green RBG bands during this month. Make sure you give me a call off air, and you can support one of our young Afropreneurs who is working to put together her little projects. As many of our little girls and even some boys are working with the rainbow looms, the crazy looms, and the Afro looms. Well, here's a little Afropreneur who is putting her efforts forward in making the red, black, and green bracelets or bands, as well as necklaces as well. And so she said, Daddy, make sure you announce it. So I'm announcing it, and we'll talk more about that in the second hour. So listen to this quick musical break, and we'll be back with more of the State of the City.
And we happen to be in America. We're not Americans. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America. Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens. We were not brought here to enjoy the constitutional gifts that they speak so beautifully about today. And because we weren't brought here to be made citizens today, now that we've become awakened to some degree and we begin to ask for those things which they say are supposedly for Americans, they look upon us with hostility and unfriendliness. If you're interested in freedom, you need some judo, you need some karate, you need all the things that will help you fight for freedom. Nationalism is the wave of the present and the future. It is nationalism that's bringing freedom to oppressed people all over the world. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Algerians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Nigerians and to the Ghanaians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the people of Uganda and Tanganyika and Sudan and Somaliland. The Africans didn't get it by sitting in. They didn't get it by wading in. They didn't get it by singing "We Shall Overcome." They got it through nationalism. And you and I will get it through nationalism. What is it? What is it that makes it difficult for the philosophy of nationalism to spread among the so-called Negroes? Number one, they think they have a stake in America. They think they have an investment in this country, which we do. We invested 310 years of slave labor, 310 years, every day of which your and my mother and father worked for nothing. Not 8 hours a day. There was no union in that day. They worked from sun up until sundown, from can't see in the morning until can't see at night. They never had a day off. And on Sunday, they were allowed to sit down and sing about when they die, they wouldn't be slaves no more. When they die, they wouldn't be slaves no more. They'd go up in the sky, and every day would be Sunday. That's a shame. And it is that 310 years of slave labor that went in, that was my and your contribution into this particular economy and political system. They can give us the back pay. Let's join in. If this is what the Negro wants, let's join him. Let's show him how to struggle. Let's show him how to fight. Let's show him how to bring about a real revolution. Let's make him stop jiving. You don't need a debate. You don't need a filibuster. You need some action.
Welcome back. You're listening to the State of the City. So let me work and see if I can get my sister Torrey up, and then we're going to come back, go a little deep into this conversation, and we're going to be joined in the second hour by Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. So listen to these messages, and we'll be back with more of the State of the City.
In our youth, we do things that when we mature, we wouldn't do. And in our youth, we say things that when we mature, we wouldn't say. But as we were honest in what we said and what we did when we did it, as we mature, we ought to be honest in what we say and what we do when we do it. We are all growing. We are all evolving. Hopefully, we are not today what we were yesterday, and we are not tomorrow yet what we shall be, but we are an evolving people. And the struggle for liberation is a struggle that is making us wiser with every step that we take. And in our sojourn toward liberation, there are casualties along the way. There are conflicts along the way. There are deaths and assassinations along the way. There's ignorance along the way. But at some point, we have to look back with a cold eye and reason where we went wrong, how we went wrong. What did we say? What did we do? Because today we face the same enemy that Malcolm faced 25 years ago. Only the enemy is wiser today and more wicked today, even as we hopefully are wiser today in our struggle. I want to talk about history, since this is Black History Month, and why we should look at history and study the history that Malcolm X made. For there are lessons in his history that will fit us out with an armor that will make us able to go through the 1990s into the 21st century, or the 21st century, pardon me. Wise people study history, because if you don't know what was, you can't understand what is, and you're ill prepared for what is yet to come. So wise people study history because it is cyclical in nature. For history is the recorded deeds of men and women and nations as they struggle against impediments in our evolutionary march toward the absolute. Now, as students of history, we must understand that there is a reward for our research if we are wise enough to be attracted to this most attractive study. I remember in 1961, Malcolm X talked with the great brother who wrote the book Roots, Alex Haley. And Alex Haley, writing for Reader's Digest, interviewed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. And they said to Alex Haley that some of our original fathers who were brought into America were in fact Muslims, and that the slave masters who historically had come into contact with the Muslims as Islam spread over the known world from the 7th to the 11th centuries, and black men rose to power in Islam. And since these blacks who were Muslims were conquering armies of white folk, when the New World was established, they did not want any Islam taught to black people or to white people, even though the founding fathers were Muslim Shriners, meaning that they had 33 degrees of the circle of knowledge. You have to appreciate that context in order to understand the profound effect that Malcolm X had on the black struggle as a Muslim. All right? The slave masters understand that when your life is committed to God, and you fear God and God alone, and you worship God and God alone, you cannot enslave a person of that kind of mentality for any long period of time. Our fathers were not the buffoons and clowns that they would like us to believe, for we could not have taught them how to cook and to sew. We could not have built their fine homes if we were such clowns in Africa. They took wise people out of Africa. They took mathematicians such as were great builders. But they did not want that knowledge passed on to the young, because parents' greatest function is to pass on the history, oral or written, the language, the accomplishments to a young generation so that young people will be inspired by knowing what their fathers did so that they can build on what their fathers did and build greater than what their fathers did. But the slave masters did not want us with that kind of knowledge. They didn't want the slave children to hear the muezzin call out, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. God is great. God is great. So I couldn't hear nobody pray, because anybody that was found saying the name Allah would be killed, because they did not want that knowledge transmitted. They did not want our own traditional African religion transmitted. They did not want the culture of Africa, the drum of Africa, the music, the dance of Africa transmitted. And so we have grown up, even though we are an African people, we have grown up totally divorced from that culture, from those traditions, whether it is Islamic or whether it is the traditional religions of Africa. They wanted no touch of Africa in the children. And so couldn't hear nobody pray. Mama gone, father gone, a motherless child sees a hard time. So the slave masters...
Welcome back. You listen to the State of the City. Just wanted to give you, of course, those Black history moments from the most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and, of course, from the Honorable Malcolm X, as we're waiting to be hearing from our sister. But as we do, let me transition into talking about the case of Jordan Davis. And if time permits, you know we're going to get into this mess regarding, again, George Zimmerman, who's back and has never gone away. The so-called celebrity boxing match with DMX. And, of course, we got much more we're going to get into. We're going to bring it on home locally, as I've talked about before. Again, payback, as you heard me coming in with this whole issue of what's happening in the state of Maryland, as we warned those state workers and city workers that they were coming for your pension. So we got much more that we definitely going to get into, of course, regarding that matter. So let me transition as we talk about this Jordan Davis case and the trial, which has begun. The jury has been seated already. As I said before, most of the mainstream news media is not talking about this. And even this is on the past week was the birthday, which would have been the birthday of Trayvon Martin. And you remember many of our people selling Trayvon, Avon, like it was Avon. But again, no moment of silence for others in this city, from the Trayvons, Avon, Tavon, Shavons, and others that have lost their lives in the city of Baltimore, because clearly it lets you see the value that is given to black life in the city by your elected officials, from your mayor to your police commissioner, who's not elected, to your governor, to your congressman, Elijah Cummings or Elijah Running, who clearly is a gatekeeper, along with Al Sharpton, Gog, and maybe Magog for President Barack Obama. They'll fight quickly if you mention anything about Obama. But they won't fight for their mama, fight for you and your mama when your mama is being turned out of her house, turned out of her jobs, and then pensions being snatched. But I'm going to talk about that shortly. Pensions being snapped or snatched, which is a snatch and grab, a flash mob and some cash mobs, and just a straight old-fashioned raid is what we're talking about when it comes to the pensions. But we warned you, and let me thank the elder who attempted to try to, as Jesus said, cast her pearls before some swine the other day. Say that Brother Muhammad's been talking about this story for over two or 3 years now, as we've been warning you about the federal government stealing your pension for the federal workers, not giving them a cost of living raise, an increase in your Social Security. But now, of course, they're coming right out and telling you they're going to take your pension. But I'm going to talk about that in just a few. Let me get into this Jordan Davis case and share this clip talking about a jury of 12 has been seated now. No black men on that jury. And clearly, we will see Michael Dunn walk as we saw with George Zimmerman walk. But clearly, as you look at, as I said before, the big six of your Al Sharpton, of Steve Harvey, of Tom Joyner, of Roland Martin, what's the other smiling travesty? Ricky Smiley and D.L. Hughley, the big six. You won't hear them talk about this or even talk about a boycott of the state of Florida, as myself and a few others have dared to do. Brother Jimothy Rogers with the American African Committee and a few others around the country, as we've been talking about it with Brother Carl Nelson on a nationally syndicated show in terms of the importance of boycotting Florida from the orange juice industry, from the tourism industry and the convention industry, until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream around the death of Trayvon Martin, around the death of Jordan Davis, who was an unarmed black teen shot and killed as he sat in the back seat of a SUV Dodge Durango by a white software developer engineer by the name of Michael Dunn, as the story has been shared by the news media there in Florida for just having their music up too loud. So let me go to this clip talking about the jury has been seated, and then we may come back, open up the lines, get your thoughts, questions, comments on this particular case before we go into some of the national or local news and bringing it on back home. And also this story regarding the Dozier School for Boys and the 55 bodies that have been basically discovered and uncovered. But this is a story that, again, should be told for all the world to see and hear, and know that if this is a microcosm of perhaps a macrocosm in terms of many of these so-called reform schools where blacks were placed, even here in Maryland, from Cheltenham, which was set up by old Johns Hopkins, who donated money for a reform school for boys, which means they would always have some readily available subjects. They would always have some readily available fresh meat. And, of course, the history of integration in the city of Baltimore that some of your so-called prominent and elite blacks in the city maybe don't want to talk about, regarding what kind of activities went on at City College, what kind of activities went on at Poly, and some of these so-called other elite schools. But yet they produce some elite fools. How do you know? You can tell a tree by the fruit it bears. You can tell a tree by the fruit that it bears. And so if they provided good service and good education, we would have seen the condition of our people be better. But the mere fact that you had likes of Kurt Schmoke and others that haven't produced for our people and, again, continue to prepare a future for our people in the city of Baltimore lets you know that the hand that rocked their cradle still rules them, shaped and molded them today. And perhaps maybe some of you children of those who went to City and went to Poly and went to those schools where they had to swim in the nude, maybe they'll eventually come forth and share with you what really happened to them. As we're looking at this case of the Catholic Church, the UN talking about the sexual abuse of children, maybe we have to bring it on home locally and talk about what the Jesuits and others did to children and many of these so-called religious schools, parochial schools, and even public schools at the height of integration that have created many of these grown men and women that look secure, but they're insecure. They look like they're developed, but they're stuck in a state of arrested development. But those are taboos and those are secrets that some have to be willing to come forward and talk about. As your scriptures talk about, the curtains of Midian did tremble, that maybe somebody got to be willing to look up those curtains and see what really went on regarding some secrets that they're holding and how it's affecting generations today based on crimes against children and those who are now adults. They're grown, but they're still growing. They look grown, but they're still wounded, and so they're bleeding while leading, or attempt to be leading while bleeding still from what happened to them. But let me go to this clip talking about Jordan Davis, and then we'll come back in talking about the Dozier School for Boys. But as I said before, this is happening and has happened all over the country from, again, schools such as Cheltenham, which was set up by Johns Hopkins, the slave owner. Johns Hopkins, the slave owner, who had a plantation right out in Anne Arundel County. And, of course, right there at what's called Lake Clifton was his summer home, his big mansion, where they're putting $4 to $6 million into refurbishing while your schools and your recs and everything else are falling apart. But let me go to this clip talking about, again, the jury that's been seated now and the case of Jordan Davis. And then if we're joined by our sister this week or next week, we'll talk about Marissa Alexander, whose trial has been postponed, I believe now, until July. And so our sister still remains free, and we'll have much more that we'll talk about. And as we're the Million Hoodie Marches for Marissa and Melissa and some of the other sisters that are locked up and locked down in this country, which is vastly rounding up black women. They've gotten black men, black children, but now they're locking up more and more black women, and they're being sentenced as well to these lengthy sentences for nonviolent crimes in this city and in this state and in this country, and some for just willing to stand up against their abusers regarding being victims of domestic abuse and perpetrators that are perpetrating violence against our women, as Sister Marissa Alexander dared to do and standing her ground. So let me go to this clip talking about Jordan Davis, and then we'll come back in and talk about the Dozier School for Boys and share that with you. So listen to this message talking about and giving an update on, again, as I said before, the seating of the jury now and the case of Michael Dunn and the death of Jordan Davis there in Jacksonville, Florida.
And they shut it off. I was like, thank you. Cordial, right? Things cordial.
And we've got breaking news. A jury has been selected just a couple of minutes ago in this case. Opening statements tomorrow. Let's go straight out to Leslie Coursey with WAWS in Jacksonville. Tell us about the makeup of the jury that has been selected.
Well, the jury is 16 people total. There are 12 jurors and 4 alternates. 10 of those people are women, 6 are men, 5 of them are minorities. We have 3 African Americans, 1 Asian, 1 Indian, and 1 Hispanic person.
So from your sense of it, covering it there, what is the mood there? Because, again, we're not going out of our way ourselves. We're not trying to make this a racial case if it's not. It's the comments of the defendant himself from jail that have been racially charged, racially offensive. What is the mood there in terms of the racial component of this trial, Leslie?
The mood here in Jacksonville is that this is really not a racial case. It's more of it's more just the fact that this man's accused of shooting a teenager over loud music that really has everybody really just shocked. These jurors were chosen today after an intense day of questioning by State Attorney Angela Corey and Dunn's attorney Corey Strolla. Both attorneys asked the jurors their opinions on guns and gun laws. They were asked about their feelings towards law enforcement, their feelings about loud music and common courtesy, and they were asked whether race and the age of the victims would influence their decisions, and they all answered no.
Welcome back. Probably couldn't give you all that. There are many, many more, of course, clips talking about that. So, again, I would encourage you to use the internet and, again, listen to other radio talk shows that are really talking about what's happening around the country, but particularly giving you updates on what is happening in Jacksonville, Florida, around the case of, again, unarmed black teens in a car who apparently the music was too loud. I don't know what the hell that is, too loud, but you would have somebody that would pull out a gun and fire 10 rounds into the car, striking Jordan Davis 3 times. This was on, I believe, what was called Black Friday 2012. But this case has not received the national attention that the Trayvon Martin case has received. And as I shared with Brother Carl Nelson the other day, that's because they don't have a public relation firm headed up by the likes of Ryan Juliuson of Juliuson Communication, who, again, was heavily tied to a law firm in Orlando, Florida, by the name of John Morgan Law Firm, who's one of the big bundlers for President Barack Obama. He raised and had a $30,000 plate dinner the night that Trayvon Martin was killed. Your president was there in, I believe, Orlando at the home, if not the night before, rather, at the home of one of the, at that time, the Orlando Magic ball players. I think it was Vince Carter, who still has a home there. And I know he may play for Dallas or somebody else now. He went from Dallas to Orlando. I don't keep up with that. But nevertheless, you had John Morgan. You had a lawyer who came from the law firm of Morgan named Francis, who is a friend of Benjamin Crump. And so you have Ben Crump, and then they went and got Al Sharpton and nationalized the case with the white mainstream media of Trayvon Martin. Then they patented Trayvon Martin's name. And, of course, we just saw the selling of Trayvon and Trayvon products, the sale of Skittles going up, the sale of Arizona iced tea going up, but no justice for Trayvon Martin. And unfortunately, it looks as if we may see the same in terms of the family of Jordan Davis, which is already settled out of court with Michael Dunn. Already settled out of court before the trial, have already settled out of court, as we saw with Trayvon Martin's family, which settled with the Homeowners Association there in Sanford, Florida, before there was the trial of George Zimmerman. So it's kind of some things that make you go, what's really going on here? And as I said before, we have to sometimes connect the dots and uncover some plots maybe that went on around the death of Trayvon Martin. She'll be coming up on the 26th in 2 weeks of the death of Trayvon Martin. And again, as I said before, this trial, which will continue there in Jacksonville, Florida, regarding the death of Jordan Davis. But we'll have to ask, why did the family choose to settle out of court? How much were they paid? Another sealed court settlement like Trayvon Martin's was. And, of course, why are they now working with Trayvon Martin's father and mother to push gun control in the black community when their sons were killed by allegedly white men? If their sons were killed by allegedly white men, then the question we got to ask, out of love, out of dignity and respect, just to have some answers here, why are you not going to the white schools, the white colleges, the white institutions, the white churches to tell them to put down the guns and turn in their guns? Why are you only coming to the black community and asking the black community to be nonviolent? Why don't you say that to the president of the United States? As Dr. King said, the most violent purveyor of violence in the world today, the government of the United States. So we can't be, of course, selective, but we must be universally corrective and of course, talking about all forms of violence, as Dr. King did, because even the King family has been running around here talking about and asking black people to be nonviolent, but they haven't said a word to President Barack Obama, Eric Holder, Secretary of Defense, which is Secretary of War, and others. Take that message to the UN. Take that message to the UN. But, of course, when you see the King children fighting each other, then you got to begin to ask, are these the children of the civil rights movement or the children of the Price is Right movement? We got to ask that question. Are these the children of the civil rights movement or the children of the Price is Right movement? Because it seems as if everything is for sale in that King family and some of these so-called other traditional civil rights family, even to the point where you get the so-called granddaughter of Hosea Williams screaming about being on the Desperate Housewives of Atlanta or the Atlanta Housewives, and you don't see a picture of Hosea Williams. She don't even quote Hosea Williams. Don't walk Hosea Williams. Some of you sit there and watch that crap. Some of you sit there and watch that crap with Portia Stewart or whatever her name is. Don't reflect anything that have to do with civil rights at all. They want to be some white, chocolate, black women. White on the inside and black on the outside. And some of them starting to look more white on the outside and white on the inside, like your mayor down there. But let me go to this clip talking about the Dozier School for Boys and the unearthing of 55 graves. And know that if there are 55, there's more. The question will be, who will take up the challenge to do the same here in this city, in this state? When we know about that dungeon sitting over there downtown that they call Central Booking, or we know about Cheltenham School for Boys, or we know about, what's the other one out there in on Cub Hill Road? What is that? Hickey School for Boys, or maybe perhaps down there at Crownsville, where countless blacks were sent at the turn of the century. And perhaps they would unearth some bodies there. But I know you waiting to get a grant from MICA, the Maryland Institute of College and Fine Arts. You waiting to get a grant from MICA or one of these white institutions to do so, when we have to be willing to tell our own history. So let me go to this clip talking about the Dozier School for Boys. And then if time permits, we'll open up the lines before we bring it on home locally, and we are going to bring it on home locally as we talk about, again, what is happening in the city of Baltimore from the homicides, and as I said before, your governor and the pension, but I hate to be the one to say we told you so, but of course, we did tell you that they were coming for your pensions, and they've already been in your pensions. They ain't just coming for your pensions. They've already been in your pensions. So let me go to this clip talking about the Dozier School for Boys, and then we'll come back in and get more into the state of the city. So listen to this message, and we'll be right back with the state of the city. Let me see if we can pull this clip up. Pardon me for 1 second here as we work to get this clip pulled up, and then we'll come back and give you more. This is talking about the unearthing of the Dozier School for Boys and the bodies that were found. Just trying to make sure we have it right where we want to have it so we can give it to you. Trying to make sure we have it here. Dozier School for Boys. Let's do this. So we're trying to grab it. Okay, let's do this here. Let me go to this quick musical break as we work to get this up, and then we'll come back in and give you more of the state of the city. So, Quinn, listen to this message, and we'll be right back with the state of the city. Got a nice little clip I want to share with you. So, listen to this, and we'll be back with more of the state of the city.
Yeah. Now I'm not afraid to do the Lord's work. He said vengeance is his, but I'ma do it first. I'm gonna handle my business in the name of the law. Oh. Now if he made you cry, oh, I gotta know. If he's not ready to die, he best prepare for it. My judgment's divine.
Why was it hushed up? It was hushed up because there was no Department of Juvenile Justice. There was nobody to look after the rights and concerns of the juveniles. The school was ran by the Florida Department of Agriculture. It was a big farm. And so boys had to constantly come in to keep this farm operational.
I'll tell you who you can call. You can call. You better call the police. Call the coroner. Call up your priest. Had to warn you.
And this was the people that were in charge. Your house could be burnt down. Your cattle could be poisoned, your farm loan could be called in, and you and your family could actually be shot. And I heard this right from the mouth of the son of the head nurse of Jackson County back in 1959.
We feel as though after visiting the archive in Tallahassee, that we found out that we were just being worked, and some of us dying just for our labor. We now were just child.
Let me go back to this clip, just having some technical difficulties with it. I want to make sure you hear this in its entirety. Again, talking about the Dozier School for Boys, and this was supposed to have been a reform school in Mariner, Florida, and to hear of the 55 bodies that were unearthed, and those are the ones that were unearthed. So listen to this, and we'll be back with more of the state of the city as we're talking about the Dozier School for Boys, which is, again, last week reported that they unearthed 55 bodies. And know, as I said before, that this is a microcosm of a macrocosm of what's gone on around this country to black boys and black girls and whites, but particularly now we're talking about what happened to blacks. Let me get this clip, like we have the wrong clip that came back up here. So let me make sure we got the right clip here so we can give it to you so that you can hear it, the excerpt in its entirety, talking about, again, the Dozier School for Boys and the unearthing of the 55 graves there in Florida. And as I said before, we'll have to look at Maryland and perhaps what happened here in Maryland to blacks at many of these so-called reform schools, whether we're talking about Cheltenham School for Boys, whether we're talking about, again, Hickey School for Boys, and any of the school for girls that are around here as well. And again, the enormous amount of abuse that occurred at those institutions as well. So I believe we got the clip now. So we'll go to this in just a second. Just got to get the infomercial cleared, and then we'll give it to you in its entirety. Before we close out the first hour, we'll come in with our brother, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., and then we'll bring it home locally to talk about Maryland, and again, getting to the pension issue and the outright raid and stealing of the people money with your governor and others that are in cahoots with their crimes against the citizens. And know that if you don't see any action coming from your so-called heads of the unions, they know that the unions are in cahoots with your governor, but I'm going to talk about that shortly. If there's no court action in terms of federal court, state court, then know that your union heads, I don't care who they are in cahoots with your governor and Mike Miller and the boys on Wall Street that are stealing the money straight from y'all street. So listen to this clip talking about the Dozier School for Boys and the unearthing of 55 bodies in Florida. Got this clip out of the way, and we'll be coming right to it now. So this is the last of it.
Why was this allowed to go on for so long? Why was it hushed up? It was hushed up because there was no Department of Juvenile Justice. There was nobody to look after the rights and concerns of the juveniles. The school was ran by the Florida Department of Agriculture. It was a big farm. And so boys had to constantly come in to keep this farm operational. There was millions of dollars of peanuts, corn, all the vegetables, eggs, everything being siphoned off of the school, millions of dollars worth. So the people downtown were told, you keep your mouth shut. If you open your mouth about what's going on at this school, and this was the people that were in charge, your house could be burnt down, your cattle could be poisoned, your farm loan could be called in, and you and your family could actually be shot. And I heard this right from the mouth of the son of the head nurse of Jackson County back in 1959.
We feel as though after visiting the archive in Tallahassee, that we found out that we was just being worked, and some of us dying just for our labor. We now were just child slaves on a plantation they called Mariana, Florida.
What I found out in the archives, that what they were saying in the book wasn't actually true. It only takes us, the one that has come here and lived, to really tell the truth.
Boys were beaten and raped and molested. Boys were killed, burned up in the incinerator, beaten to where they had to be sutured up by the doctor. There was body parts seen in the hog slop pen. I mean, it was horrible.
And it's sad because my mother didn't believe that they was treating me this bad. And I had to show her.
They told my mother that they was going to educate us. We was going to make us fit for society. I never learned how to write my name here. I never learned anything here except how to do farm work.
They're going to find a little bit of good and a whole bunch of bad, more than they want to find. I want to see these exhumations be considered a crime scene. That's most important to me.
It's my hope and wish, what we're trying to do now and fight for, that no one ever again be treated like this.
Welcome back. You listen to the State of the City. Those are some news clips talking about the Dozier School, D-O-Z-I-E-R, which was run by the Department of Agriculture in Florida. But you heard the testimonies of some of those men who are grown men now and talking about what happened to them. And again, others who went missing, others who bodies have now been unearthed. And of course, even those who body parts were burnt, body parts and limbs were fed to the pigs and fed to the hogs. So again, I know some of you thought that this was just something that was being made up. So let me open up the lines. Get your thoughts, questions, comments, perhaps on the Jordan Davis case and on this case of the Dozier School for Boys, because the question will be, since there's no statute or limitation on murder, who will be held accountable for their crimes against those little boys there in Dozier? But again, as I said before, we may have to have some real open, honest discussion and dialogue from those that are here in the city of Baltimore and talk about perhaps their crimes and what they did or what was done to them at some of these so-called reform schools, whether we're talking about Cheltenham, whether we're talking about Hickey School, whether we're talking about that dungeon that sits over there, as I said before, at what they now call central booking, but know that there were many crimes done to children and these facilities and the girls' facilities. So if you got a question, thought, comment, before we bring it home locally, after we're joined by Brother Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., you can get in on the conversation, 410-761-1592. And any thought on this so-called celebrity boxing match, George Zimmerman and DMX. Now, isn't that interesting? They must have a new motto. I remember at Radio 1 some time ago, some say you shouldn't talk about that, but it was in the Source magazine, when they beat up a manager. I think it was Slim Shady. I think it was Slim Shady. Marshall Mathers, what's his name? Not the Beaver, but the other one that they run around and hijack hip hop and say he the king of hip hop now. Eminem. They beat up a manager over there. They sent out a memo say you couldn't talk about it. I said they must have a new theme over there. Beat up a DJ, get some free play. Well, clearly must be murder black and get a rap album. Get a new reality TV show and George Zimmerman. But yet you don't hear the family of Trayvon Martin with all that money that they got from their payout and their $5 million Trayvon Martin Foundation, maybe taking ads out in the newspapers around the country or going on Shopton and going on Joyner and going on Madison and going on Hughley and say we're asking for blacks and citizens of goodwill to boycott the company, Donnie Feldman, Aramis, and anybody else that would even give any type of attention or mention to glamorizing George Zimmerman, who murdered their son. But yet, you don't hear them saying a word about that. But yet, they're going to come to you. I think they're having a march this week. They're having a march this week or this weekend talking about violence in the black community, man. But yet, when it comes to the man that murdered their son, we see silence as opposed to them condemning that form of violence. But again, as I said before, all violence in all its forms must be condemned, from the streets to the suites, man. So with that, let me come to the line. Take your thoughts, questions, comments before we wrap up in the first hour, and then we'll be joined by Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. For a short while on the second hour, and then we're going to come back on talk about this issue of your pensions, because soon your money is going to be too tight to mention, man. And if you think what your governor's talking about doing now, which they already are doing, is something, stick around, man. That would just be the hors d'oeuvres. That would just be the appetizer. You haven't seen the 4-course meal that they're coming with, man. But let me go to the lines, 410-761-1592 before we close out in the first hour. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the State of the City.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my sister.
First off, let me just throw this off. With the governor, like you said, it's just hors d'oeuvres, and right before he goes trampling on even more as he's trying to run up to try to see if he can get a seat on the presidential platform.
Right.
So we all know about that. Yes, they are having a march down there. Apparently, I believe yesterday, Jamie Foxx put out the call for the march. Mm-hmm. But something that's not being paid attention to is the Obama nomination for the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice.
Yes.
Matter of fact, Pam Africa came down to the Senate, I believe, was it Thursday? And he got that. Surprisingly, he got that.
Yeah, what's his name? What's his name?
Debo Adedale.
Okay.
And this
who is
what we got to use as a tool.
Yeah, for those that don't know, who is he, sister? Who is he?
Oh, I'm sorry. He's Nigerian-born, and he was with the NACP Legal Defense Fund. Mm-hmm. The NACP Legal Defense Fund for years have supported us on the advocating for Mumia Abu-Jamal rights, freedom, and to get a new trial.
Okay.
Matter of fact, its current lawyers now are with, if not have been, with the NACP Legal Defense Fund. And with his position, he did that. And for that reason, that is why the FOP with Sean Hannity and Fox TV did a serious attack on him for saying that he was, advocating for a cop killer. Okay. Of course, they pulled out, dragged out so-called Maureen Faulkner. I say so-called because she's remarried and everything. She tried to show up at the Senate and tried to claim that the Democrats wouldn't let you in. Well, if you showed up saying that you had a remarried name and ID for it and trying to show up with a name in the past, of course they're not going to let you in,
Right.
So that's the real roots of that. Okay. So we're advocating for, because that was just with the committee.
Right.
The actual vote, general, which will be an uphill battle, which we all got to be united and get on board on, will be in March for the U.S. Senate. And that what we need to have take place.
Okay.
And I'm saying seriously, for civil rights, police brutality, police harassment, and unjust killings, the list goes on. Environmental racism, you call it, all of that. And you look up his thing, he's done the work in the past, and that's why we support him.
Okay. Well, just keep me in tune.
The last thing, since it was Bob Marley's birthday this week.
Yes, this past Thursday, I believe, right? The 6th. Yes.
I'm a Rastafarian, now being a Rastafarian. I know the Bob Marley family very well. His granddaughter is taking a stand as Occupy Pinnacle, the ancestral land of Leonard Percival Howell that was stolen by a developer. I put out the information because they are taking a stand and demand that land get returned back to the Howell family.
Right.
Stolen pirates that they are, including a developer they used to seed on a historical site to finagle the land out. And so the LPH Foundation, you can see that information, and Pound, Occupy Pinnacle, you can see that information, and also on Mumia's website, you can see more information as the fight has been on for about Debo Adedale, the nomination for the DOJ Civil Rights.
Okay.
And that's what we must agitate on. I'm serious on this, because if we don't get him in, they'll choose something even less.
Sure.
And I don't want to see anything even less. So let's move forward.
All right. Thank you, my sister. Give thanks now and on the move.
On the move.
All right, peace. And with that, let's close out in the first hour as we work to get our brother, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. up on the show in the flow this afternoon. So we're going to close in the first hour, and then we're going to work to get our brother up. So in the meantime, in between time, again, we're still celebrating Black History Month. So if you don't want to do anything else this Black History Month, man, learn the Black National Anthem. Some refer to it as the Negro National Anthem, but learn the Black National Anthem. So listen to this version of the Black National Anthem, and we'll be back with more of the State of the City.
Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the living sky. Let it resound loud as the march on to victory is won.
Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening run, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat had not our weary feet come to that place for which our fathers sighed. Tears have been watered. We have come treading the path through the blood of our slaughter. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. Oh, sing a song, sing a song, keep on singing, keep on singing. Sing it loud, sing a song. Don't ever stop singing, don't ever stop singing. Yeah. Sing a song. Oh, don't ever stop singing. Sing a song. Keep on dancing, keep on dancing. Sing a song.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Of course, that was the rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. And as our brother, the great Brother Khalid Abdul Muhammad had said, as you lift every voice and sing, make sure you lift every black fist and swing. And speaking of one who, of course, not just can sing, but swing, let me take this opportunity to welcome back to the State of the City our revolutionary comrade, the revolutionary chairman of the POCC, the Panther Cub, and, of course, the son of one of our revolutionary chairman Fred Hampton Sr., and the December 4th movement that continues to elevate, celebrate, and commemorate, as he and I and others have talked about the importance of protecting our legacy, respecting our legacy, and never, ever neglecting our legacy. So I'm honored to welcome back to the State of the City as we introduce to some, reintroduce to others, and allow more of you to get acquainted with my brother and friend, Brother Fred Hampton Jr. Revolutionary love, comrade.
Revolutionary love, right back at you. I'm honored and humbled to be back online with you as always, my brother.
Yes, sir. Honor and pleasure is all mine, man. How are you and all the revolutionary comrades and the revolutionary family there?
Hey, spirits are strong. Spirits are strong. We feel as what Chairman Fred Sr. said, high off the people.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, let's give you contact info before we go a little deep in the show and the flow, brother.
Right on. Phone contact is area code 773-256-9451. Again, area code 773-256-9451. Blogspot address www.chairmanfredjr.blogspot.com. Again, www.chairmanfredjr.blogspot.com. We also can reach on Facebook at Who We Be POCC, as well as the real Chairman Fred Jr. Real Chairman Fred Jr. and also Who We Be POCC. My email contact is Chairman Fred Jr. chairmanfredjr@gmail.com.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, before you came on, brother, we were, of course, playing a rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing with BB Winan and Sister Gladys Knight. We're celebrating, of course, our history, our story, our legacy. Speak to, of course, the young people that are listening, man, and talk about the importance of protecting that legacy and respecting our legacies, Chairman.
Well, one of our mantras with the POCC/BPPC, being the Prisoners of Conscience Committee, Black Panther Party Cubs. One of our mantras is that we see, in fact, legacies can be, in fact, more important than our actual life. Because the deal is, all of us, we have a certain amount of time to physically be here. Yes. But the deal is legacies, man. We say we got to protect them, respect them, and never neglect them. Legacies serve as a prototype or an example or template on, how to deal with present day situations as well as future circumstances. And it's so important that we cross some T's and dot them I's to be on point. In particular, with some revolutionary forces and just oppressed communities in general should be on the heads up, because the deal is those who the system, the ruling class, the oppressors. Said that if they can't stop it, they will attempt to co-opt it, water it down, change it, make it something it to be. Malcolm X made this reference in regards to such scenarios as the historical March on Washington, how it was initially with the masses of people, talking about organizing and shutting Washington literally, politically, physically, in fact, shutting Washington, D.C. down. And such representatives of the ruling class, such as former President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, representatives of the ruling class, did convene a number of different issues, what Malcolm referred to as the Big Six. And when ruling class took the position, we can't stop this, but let's co-opt it, water it down, change it, make it so that be hijacked. And this is a real live scenario. We see the situation where such forces, instead of Malcolm X, instead of Chairman Fred, just in Mark Clark, there's such it's the Black Panther Party, and so many, not even necessarily revolutionary organizations, but even legacies of different genres such as hip hop, rock and roll, blues, jazz, you name it, or even cats in the streets, street organizations, whatever. We see where a lot of the revisionists, those who took to rewrite history, they would take something from the naked eye, and they seem to be minimal. Like, we're just going to change this particular word, they're going to insert this particular individual, and change this around, or make a grammatical correction. But again, it may seem a minimal move. However, it can, it can change the whole dynamic on who did what. And if we're not on point, it can distinguish from the late great Reverend Lynn Turner being seen for what he was, which is revolutionary, or to being to defame and standing as also, crazy madman. So it's essential. It's key that we be on point with these legacies, man.
Yes, sir. Again, family, just tuning in and having a conversation with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Well, speaking of, again, the legacies, brother, before you came on, we were talking about the case now in Florida, which has begun the trial of Michael Dunn, of course, the white engineer, software developer who shot and killed young brother Jordan Davis, shot 3 times as he was in the back seat of a car, along with, I think, at least 3 or 4 other youth. And that trial now has begun. Thoughts and comments on this, and this is on the back of course, what we saw in Sanford, Florida with Trayvon Martin, Brother Fred.
I think it's important that we, again, to politicize the people, with this case as well as, every other attack that's waged upon our people, whether it come through the entertainment industry, whether it come through the judicial system, what America, or Richard Pryor referred to it in the comedic way, but in the realistic way, the American Just Us system, or whether whether it come through the slumlords in our community, or the disproportionate amount of of our babies, black babies being subjected to infant mortality, or better yet, that we don't care. Healthcare systems our people subjected to. It is essential that we politicize the people, be very clear about these attacks that we subjected to as a people, man, and that it does not be minimized to a case of the race dynamic, the class dynamic, can never be negated in these situations. Again, a lot of times we call for these different systems of, we can call these different terms and legal jargon and words and terms, and trying to figure out do we present this motion correctly, or should we fight for this particular law, stand your ground laws, so on and so forth. And initially start with the correct premise, and that premise is taken into account and put in these cases historical context, the quote unquote relationship that not only the government has had with our people, but even just in the common everyday white folks with the psyche they feel and take on when it comes to shoot down brothers and sisters in our community, not just the law enforcement agencies, but again the common colonizer, the common everyday people. Right. Which of a mindset and psyche is taking on to feel comfortable, to be able to get down on African people, particularly oppressed people and other oppressed people in general.
That's right. Yes, sir. Well, there's an old saying, man. They have, of course, bear hunting season, which they put a limit on how many bears you can kill. They got deer hunting season, duck hunting season, which was wrapped up last week. But it seems as if there's always open season on blacks in America, in particular our black boys. And this, of course, comes on the heels of the Malcolm X grassroots media report that every 24 to 48 hours a black is killed by police or someone associated or affiliated with law enforcement. So can you speak to that? Because one of the other issues I wanted to tie in and throw in was, of course, as we talked about on the Facebook page and we communicated, was the digging up and the unearthing of the 55 bodies there at the Dozier School for Boys. But we can take that and multiply it, whether we're talking about Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Los Angeles, California, where this seems to be happening to blacks. And now some of that is coming, of course, to the surface, Chairman Fred.
It's important that when we talk about all these different horrifying numbers, these stats and facts that impact our community, ranging from the massive amount of school closures in Chicago to the rampant amount of police terrorism our people are subjected to. But it's also important that we be very clear that a lot of these numbers, have been, I'm not able to actually tell the real deal on we're subject to on a day-to-day basis. In fact, there are no adjectives to actually describe the horror that goes on within our community. So we a lot of times we let the stress and say, well, at least this amount of type, amount of murder our people subjected to at the hands of the police or different other entities of the system. Because the deal is, we got to keep in mind, keep in context that, you know what I'm saying, even the entities, the agencies that we were able to, that these numbers are reported to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We got to about even the massive amount of foreclosures within our community. These numbers really, are not able to actually even tell the real deal. So come in with that in mind. Also, the late Marshal George Jackson, the Black Panther Party, has said that capitalism not only affects the economy, but it affects the psyche of the people. Again, capitalism, this system that we are subjected to, this parasitical system, this parasitical politics, this blood-sucking system, this blood-sucking politics, it not only affects the economy, but it affects the psyche of the people.
Right.
And that is not just in regards to those who have been oppressed, but you pick up a certain, this whole white privilege mindset, again, not from just those who behind the badge, but the common everyday people, it's a message to them that you can feel comfortable. In fact, you will be rewarded. You know what I'm saying? For putting some sort of engaging in any type of atrocities with the African community, particularly whether you be a slumlord, within our community, or a foreign merchant within the community, you name it. We got a situation right now. We engaged in people's investigation on the southwest side of Chicago, 63rd and Artesia, where it's been reported that one of the merchants, they refer to as the Sam and Mike stores, the merchants who take on these names, they call it, all of them take on these fictitious names, Sam and Mike.
Right.
And there's a brother from home, directly from Africa, opened up a store that was a complete store right on 63rd and Artesia, and they say that the Arab merchant that solicited some young brother in the community to literally take out this fellow African, take him out. And they say that the little brother who was engaged in the case actually shot the African, and he admitted this. And with the deal, one of the major contradictions, a lot of people ain't talking about, the little guy, he's locked up, but the Arab merchant is still, to run his day-to-day business. You know what I'm saying? And this type of situations that you a lot of times people get the reactionary summation on the news, and all this is one part of what they call black on black violence, which is a term we have a serious issue with even engaging in that term. And people come with these reactionary summations, as opposed to, start talking about some principal contradictions. What type of entities in our community exploiting the pain and suffering of our people, to engage in type of criminal activities. A lot of times people want to talk about crabs in the barrel. You want to talk about who putting the boiling water, in the crabs. Who controls the situation that's forcing the telling the people that initially was referred to, it was considered the same people in Rwanda. What type of entities are creating the Hutus and Tutsis, dividing the one people, exploiting the class contradictions. So who's telling our people in order for you to succeed, in order for you to breathe,
right,
you got to come at the expense of get down on one of your fellow brothers or sisters.
Yes, sir. Again, family, just tuning in, having a conversation with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Kind of fading in and out a little bit, Chairman, so got to try to get that with the sound, the reception a little better. Got to get your thoughts and comments as we're talking about this, man. You have George Zimmerman and this so-called celebrity boxing match with DMX. Speak about that in the context of what you have always talked about, which, again, is code of culture and consequences and repercussion to these artists, whether they're current artists or former artists, and these tombos or these modern-day sambos who would allow themselves to be used in this capacity. And then another backdrop to this is that we have the family of Trayvon Martin not asking and using the Big Six radio talk show hosts, from Al Sharpton to Tavis Smiley to Ricky Smiley to Tom Joyner to Steve Harvey to D.L. Hughley, and I believe there's one more. But at least go on them shows or take out ads with the money that they received in their settlement out of court, which is sealed, to at least ask for black people to boycott and others some goodwill to boycott. Chairman, you still there? All right, we're having some problems with Chairman Fred. We're going to work to get him back up, get him on. So listen to this message, and we'll be right back with more of the State of the City as we work to get our brother back up and get him online.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we got you back in, Chairman? All right, let me get him back up. Take this quick musical break. We'll be right back with more of the State of Today.
Things in their name that they can say they own. A mixtape freestyle become your favorite song. No place like home when the cops ask you about your neighbors. Beat on you, threaten to incarcerate you till you spill your guts like you were Garcia Vega. We roll blunts, not the papers. Cop the greatest, take it coast to coast. LA to Chicago like smooth operators. Cop the drawer, cop the blacks, cop the foe, cock it back. Drop a flow, a rock a hat on top of stocking cap. Be a doctor or a lawyer or make your mama a promise that you'll finish school. But when you got a dream, you gotta follow that. And make sure when you make it out the hood, you always holler back. Think about what you got from that and always put your dollars back. On top of that, this is a legacy, you we a part of that. The hood is my heart is at. Catch me around my way.
All right, welcome back. Get our chairman back in. We got you in, chairman?
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm with you, brother. I caught the end of the question before we faded it up. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Right on. Well, I'm just happy to be around through Southwest Detroit, Detroit, Michigan right now. We're just looking at some, there's a lot of the listeners already familiar, I'm sure. A lot of the blighted conditions, that's happening in Detroit, the whole massive land grab that's going down on an intense level, as we speak in Detroit. I've been talking to a lot of people in the community. With Sister Cree, we've got an organization. What is it? Hip Hop Elevation. I got brother DJ Dez up here who's been an amazing player with our code of culture. So we got some updates right there as we speak about the whole some of the tactics that's been laid down by the state about the massive land grab. But I just want to touch on something about this. Can repeat the end of the question you asked me before about this whole thing about this George Zimmerman thing, so I can touch on it and go back to Southern Detroit also.
Yes, sir. Please do.
Okay.
Yeah, so my question was about this so-called celebrity boxing match between George Zimmerman and DMX. And, of course, this comes on the heels of the death of Trayvon Martin and now, of course, the case of Jordan Davis and our people around the country. So thoughts and comments on that, brother?
Even this, it's a tactic at a system, at a government, they can trivialize, the atrocities that occur within our community, you know what I'm saying? And the deal is they would seek out different individuals, different tactics. They would exploit different contradictions within our community, you know what I'm saying? Like even how historically how the state were raised similar to that of Rome, how they the roles they would grab with entertainers grab entertainers and herald them up as spokespersons. I quoted this before. There was an interview with Malcolm X was speaking on an interview, and the interviewer had told Malcolm X, "Well, Jackie Robinson disagrees with your position about violence." And Malcolm's response was, "Wait a minute, we don't hold up no Bob Hope or no Marilyn Monroe as your spokespersons. You know what I'm saying? So don't try to hold these individuals as our spokesperson." So it's a strategic tactic to to hold up to hold up various individuals to be our to be our spokesperson to represent our only ways of to get some attention to a particular issue because the state knows how limited they can be or these individuals being sum up correctly about these attacks. Now let's look at pros and cons, because the deal is most people do learn and grasp certain situations, come to attention with issues from reactionary situations. And the deal is, DMX, who himself has been attacked by this vicious system in so many ways. You know what I'm saying? In one sense, you can sympathize. You know what I'm saying with this brother. However, they know the reactionaryism. In other words, I'm saying this the same system that would throw down and attack DMX. You know what I'm saying? Was giving Trump cases back to back in Phoenix, Arizona. They can bring him out several days later. He would do a benefit for the United States Army. You know what I'm saying? Right. So the state knows they have a psychological profile. They know, similar to the way, and I don't want that was a strategic, that was a genius tactic that was implemented recently in North Korea. How they grabbed his reactionary Dennis Rodman. And strategically, a lot of people's critical of North Korean government, but it's something that the United States does all the time. Where they would grab these modern day Roman gladiators, athletes, and entertainers, and who may take a reactionary stance and say something but they know it's going to be short-lived. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's going to be, in fact, they were doing a backflip. You know what I'm saying? Similar to like what Dennis Rodman was saying one thing about in regards to the prisoner in North Korea when he was there, and then, however, when he got back to the United States, he took pro-U.S. Well, I'll go trade places with the prisoner. You know what I'm saying? These are the type of instances. So again, they know this is typical of, you know, a lot of these individuals. You know what I'm saying? Reaction and response. So it's strategic that the state, you know what I'm saying? And those involved or work into the state, and whether they consciously or unconsciously know, you know what I'm saying? Who grab his brother? You know what I'm saying? To set the stage, literally, to set the stage and to trivialize this whole position, you know what I'm saying? Adopting after the people, so you can't get justice in the court. So at least you can be, you know what I'm saying, live about it, and entertain about it, you know what I'm saying? In fact, we're going to trivialize, you know what I'm saying, the position of police terrorism in our community, and the terrorism in general that goes on in our community. So again, the state is exploiting, you know what I'm saying, the reaction areas when such forces are being mixed.
Yes, sir. Again, family, just tuning in, having a conversation with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Well, speaking of exploiting, brothers, you talked about Detroit, and we see the snatching of our brothers and sisters' land in Detroit, their pensions in Detroit, and it's coming to Chicago. It's coming to Baltimore. It's coming to in Illinois when we look at what's happening in Illinois, to California. Speak to that because, again, the architect of it may be Wall Street and the gangster banksters, but again, the man that is in collusion with them is sitting in the White House, and then some of these so-called Democratic pimp governors are sitting in the various state houses. So talk about that around Detroit when we look at how, again, that is probably ground zero to what they have planned for the rest of the country, particularly where black people are the majorities in these cities.
Well, you know, as you pointed out, my brother, I mean, Detroit is, a graphic depiction of the massive land grab, or a lot of people like to, say euthanize, refer to the gentrification. The opposition is that this house that this government has planned for black people in particular and other oppressed communities in general is the penitentiaries and the graveyards. And, when it comes through the American banks and banks, like, the Freddie Mae, the Freddie Macs, these other institutions, you see a position being literally stated from such individuals as, U.S. President Barack Obama, where, there's a rewarding, giving more concessions to these different entities on Wall Street, and you see a intensifying attack with policies and practices down, to your grandmother, to the brothers and sisters in the community, who are losing their homes in mass levels. And it comes, and with that position, when it comes down from the face. The face of the representative, the head face of the representative of this country, it trickles down. Right. To every other entity in this country. Again, to push down laws, it trickles down to push down laws, it trickles down to foreign merchants within our community. They have increased prices, for the dilapidated goods that are provided to our people, as opposed to, having better service for other communities. It trickles down to, with a former mayor of Detroit, with Bing, where they set this policy with 40,000 lights, 40,000, literally 40,000 lights, cut off, public lights, in the community. So these type of policies that trickle down all with our community, that it's all the message that we want, that we want the black community up out of here. A lot of people, so we had this reactionary response, and we think, okay, well, black people just moving, no, similar to that, a lot of people call it great migration. No, right. It wasn't people just leaving about the South on no great migration. They was literally chasing out our uncles and uncles up out of there. Literally, burning crosses at their front door. Trucked up a tax land, a motion tax being launched on them. So it's important things just don't happen, just come out of no vacuum. You know what I'm saying? Like people say, well, somebody went to prison. No, anybody just went to prison. They got kidnapped. That's right. We just say, grandma just losing our home. We just ain't fading. We just fading away. Right. We're not just dying. We are being murdered. Our homes are being taken. The strategic, the massive amount of school closing. All these policies, come down from the head honcho, the face, who send down the policies that, again, the entities, the Chase banks, right. Fannie Mae's, Freddie Macs, and all these other, these other entities will be rewarded if, at the expense of getting down on the black community in particular.
Yes, sir. All right. Again, family, just tuned in, having a conversation with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Well, speaking of getting down, man, you had a group of brothers, and next time I bring you on, we got to get those brothers on. Poor blacks is what the headline said, but blacks in Chicago say to Obama, just quit, because, of course, he's been a nightmare. The American dream called President Barack Obama, as you said, and, of course, the chairman, Fred Hampton Sr., have talked about these phenomena, which are clearly contradictions, and this American dream has been an American nightmare for blacks when it comes to, again, this presidency of President Barack Obama and his policies that are ill-affecting our people. And the sad part, or perhaps the good part, is the worst is yet to come right now. Thoughts and comments on that, Chairman?
You see, the deal is, in particular, in response to some interview from the community, peaceful form of community residents. They response to the presidential address, State of the Union. And in plain layman's terms, the community was like, man, this man, the jobs that President Barack Obama, it has been not beneficial in particular. In fact, it's been detrimental, in particular to the black community. And to start off with the correct premise, our position was initially, even when this whole hoopla was being sold to the community, we took an unpopular position. And that position was that President Barack Obama was the coldest drug that America has dropped on blacks since crack. Again, the coldest drug they have dropped on blacks since crack. Literally, it can be, correlated to that of narcotics. A lot of cats literally start on the street corner, start, selling Obama propaganda as opposed to the drugs. You see people not even engaged, like trying to have a logical discussion with somebody with a spike in their arm, telling them how drugs are not good for them. People are not even engaged in logical discussions. You try to raise the voice about different policies and practices. This is prior. Right. To the record low number of pardons that he is quote unquote that he is not granted. He has given his administration has given more attention to pardon than Turkey. That's right. Before Thanksgiving. Yes, sir. Let's not even acknowledge it. That's right. The cases of Mumia Abu Jamal, Sundiata, Cola Sekou, Digga Marshall, Eddie Conway, the C numbers Illinois. You know what I'm saying? And the whole we don't even talk about the international attacks, intensifying attacks against Africa, Somalia. You know what I'm saying? And the various countries, throughout Africa, throughout the world. Right. So, and you can even have a logical discussion with people. So you see people coming through like a relapse, so they can ease up off the drugs and come to some sort of reality. Because the only time you have seen this president, even speak in particular to the black community, is such as that of the historical Father's Day speech a few years back in Chicago at the Apostolic Church, where it was a scathing attack. That's right. On black men in particular, and the black community in general, and people, it's in the consistent. And now people are trying to be liberal with this or water it down. Right. And you can run out of excuses. People are saying, "Well, you wait till the next term, he's going to address this." And you see at the Democratic convention, when he literally. The president of the United States, sometimes the most powerful country within the world, throughout the world, can specifically acknowledge various communities and other nationalities, but not, not even touch the question of black people.
That's right. Yes, sir. Again.
So what you see basically again, if you're saying, well, people come to grips and call these questions in layman terms. I'm talking about, like a lot of times people try to get you up in these intellectual conversations back and forth. And not, so people coming to grips with Stephen Biko said, black people in particular must grasp the ability to distinguish intelligence from the ability to articulate. And and cats coming to grips with whether they have some degrees, or not, whether they've been in school or not. They said, no, all these policies, don't care how good it sounds. These policies have not been beneficial to our community. In fact, they have been detrimental. You know what I'm saying? And again, we at the best we have been seen as invisible men and women. To his administration. That's again at best, because the deal is actually when we are addressing, it's some policies that's directly attacking and criminalizing our community, and that's sending a message to every other entity that is in our community that no, if this how he feel about you, we are being rewarded, and there's concessions. You know what I'm saying, to rappers and degraders, to radio hosts, attackers, to other nationalities that feel to continue to engage in it. So again, it's a continuation of the quote unquote relationship that this government has had with African people since the first chains of whips were placed on our backs.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up just that conversation because I want to bring it on home locally, talk about some of these local stories. Chairman, let's quickly give your contact information, brother. And, of course, I got to get you back on where we can get a better connection. I promise you, as you out doing that work in Detroit, I apologize to the listeners that said they're having some feedback, but we're going to work to get that resolved so that we'll get you back on within the next 2 weeks so that we can give them, of course, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., and we'll get an opportunity to hear from those brothers and sisters in Chicago who have just come out and said, of course, that the president just needs to quit or just come clean in 2014 and let the people know what they really essentially are trying to do is move our people up off this scene in terms of ethnic cleansing or if just outright genocide. So quickly, closing comments, my brother.
Well, again, a revolutionary love and appreciation for this opportunity. The airwaves, you know what I'm saying? Again, we live and direct, you know what I'm saying, for the Detroit, Michigan right now. The time that comes is going to be in Alabama, early March sometime. We'll be keeping you updated on our schedule, itinerary. Yes, sir. There's so many other things I can't wait to update the listeners and the people about. One about what happened this past December 4th for the University of Chicago, and certain entities tried to, again, hijack the legacy of Chairman Fred and the Texas tomorrow o'clock and the Black Panther Party. So we got so much to talk about. Let's continue to make history, take history, and tape our history. Again, the contact is at Chairman Fred Jr. at gmail.com, 773-256-9451. Let's keep the cases, you know what I'm saying, on Sunday Island Colas, Marshall Conway, Sequoia Dingo, outside of Sequoia. Your brother, the sister down the street, the victims of Hurricane America, not Hurricane Katrina, but Hurricane America. Again, the situation in Haiti, again, let's keep all these cases intact. Keep our people on our minds hard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We cannot afford the luxury to talk about Black History Month in some sort of abstract, nostalgia type of way. Because the deal is Black people are on the verge of becoming history. And we mean that. And again, if we don't fight back, if we don't organize, it can be seen as nothing less than what the Minister UEP do refer to as reactionary suicide. We refuse to commit suicide. We know anybody going to save us but us. We say, what's our call? Free them all. Heads up, eyes open, fists clenched. Empower the people who dare to struggle, dare to win. You don't dare to struggle, you don't deserve to win.
All right.
What's the call? Free them all.
Free them all. Revolutionary love to you, Chairman. Thank you now.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, brother. Peace. And again, that was our brother, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. We apologize. Our brother, of course, as I said, is out there on front line doing some work there in Detroit. So we had some technical difficulties in and out. But, of course, I wanted to have our brother on during February, Black History Month. So let me open up the lines. If you want to get in on this conversation, 410-761-1592. As I promise you, we'll bring it on home locally. Talk about some of these local stories. And, of course, this week, Fox 45 had a forum on racism. The only thing wrong is I don't think they had one white on the panel, and they had, of course, that fraud Armstrong Williams. Had Armstrong Williams on the panel. Well, he probably was the white that was on the panel. Of course, Baltimore murder cases in terms of 1 in 5 cases are not solved in the city of Baltimore. And then we bring it on home to talk about the pension. So let me go to this clip of Fox 45 talking about the homicides in the city of Baltimore and how many of them have, again, remained open and not closed.
Joseph Haskins, the cousin of Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake, shot in the head during a home invasion inside this Northeast Baltimore house in May of 2013. But today, that killing remains unsolved, leaving the city's top official in an ever-expanding group.
None of this is acceptable to me as mayor. Not the first homicide, not the 5th, not the 100th. And when they remain